Hi, I'm Susan Peterson, and you are listening to Started from the Bottom, an entrepreneur-focused podcast on getting started. Here you will find all the mindset tools and resources you need to just get started.
Do you want like bullet points?
Have you never written a bio before? Do you have one currently?
No.
Don't do it then. No, let's not do it.
I mean, what credentials?
No, well, when you go and speak a lot of times, people will be like, can you send your bio and headshot? And I wrote mine literally in 2015 or 2016. I haven't changed it. So when people read it, it's like, in 2014, she blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that was a decade
10
ago.
years ago.
Whatever.
What's the big deal? Okay. Welcome back to Started from the Bottom. I'm so excited today. I have my friend Meg Livingston from Post Accessories here. And if you're not aware, or if you've been living under a rock, Post Accessories is honestly the coolest jewelry brand around. I'm obsessed.
Well, that's very nice of you.
It's really good.
I'm not sure about that, but
no, it is. It's wonderful, actually. In fact, I'm going to jump one. I love your creative approach to like branding. And Tristan and I always talk about how everything you do is so on point.
Well, thank you.
What is your philosophy behind branding? Or where does that come from?
Before I started Post, I'm a retired graphic artist. So that's how I got into product.
What'd you do before?
I was a freelance graphic artist and I did a lot of branding for small businesses.
Oh, cool.
So it's always been something that I love. However, when I started my own brand, I was like, I don't think I'm going to follow any of the rules that I have been taught to follow when it comes to branding. And so as I was designing my assets, I made sure my logo was really solid and simple, but then I kind of threw the rest out of the window, out the door. Yeah. I decided to really focus on branding per campaign instead of like an overall brand essence, which on occasion can feel a little chaotic, but I think it keeps it fresh for my demographic. So for like the holidays, it kind of has its own brand look. And for Black Friday, it had its own look. And while I was told for many years, like, no, you've got to be like really consistent through your branding, which I do believe is true in a lot of like making sure that your assets are strong. I decided to have more fun with my brand, and I hoped that it would land with the people that were buying my product.
I think it does. I feel like there's a subculture around the assets. Like people are excited to get the new bag and the new insert and the new packaging. And I think it adds like this extra layer of like an inside joke almost.
Yes.
With your audience.
In
like if you know,
you
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so much of my business is inspired by pop culture and TV. Mm-hmm. So in the words of Michael Scott, you know, yeah, I love inside jokes. I would love to be a part of one someday. And that is my business mantra.
Yes.
I like Post to feel like an inside joke.
Yeah.
And so I've focused a lot on the branding details. And I've been told in the past, like, that doesn't matter. They're not going to notice. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And at the end of the day, I'm like, well, there might be one person who sees the weird little office quote that's like hidden in the website, or will understand this like really obscure pop culture reference that's hidden in the packaging. And even if it's just one person, that's kind of exciting for me. I don't know.
I think it's exciting. I really appreciate that you quoted Michael Scott. He's the most quoted businessman on this podcast.
He's a genius.
He's a genius. Truly. I think, well, it's like, I always say, like, do what you do best and hire out the rest. And you come from this design background. So if you couldn't do most of this by yourself and it wasn't fun for you and it wasn't something that like really fueled you and like got you excited about the next launch, because I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but some of your launches even start with the packaging, right?
Almost always.
Before you even have the product.
Yes.
And that's because of your background, and it's something where you're like, oh, now I'm excited about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think if you're listening to this and you're like, oh no, great, now I have to go and design all this stuff. No, you don't. Like, work from your strength and have that be the thing that gets you excited about what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I don't think every business owner needs to like lay into every detail like I have. I have because it's very fun for me, but there are other things in my business that I'm lacking because like I don't find it as fun. But I think for any product-based business, like pick a few details.
Yeah.
Just pick a few, be methodical, be thoughtful in your design and your intention, and like who's buying your product, will they get a kick out of it? Will they think it's endearing or sweet or whatever your brand messaging is? I don't think necessarily every detail has to be.
But you can't help yourself, right?
I can't help myself.
I really can't. Which I love. I've seen you put on parties for your neighborhood.
I'm mentally ill. Should we also say that?
Well, you might be, but I don't think it's a sign of mental illness. It's just like the thing that gets you excited about the event. Like, you wouldn't go to a party just to network with people for networking's sake.
Never.
Right?
No.
But if you could plan it and put a lot of thought into the details.
Yes. And then if I could leave.
Yes.
And not even attend the party.
But
that would be my introverted self's preference.
But it's like, Notorious MEG was here. Like, she made it cool.
And then she leaves.
Yeah, you put your fingerprint on it and you're out. Yeah, I think it's just, I really like how you've leaned into your strengths. The first time I got a package from you, I was blown away by the packaging. It's so good. And your assets, your photos, everything is just so, so good. Love it.
Well, thanks.
Okay, so that was like question 5, but let's back up. How did you get started?
How did I get started?
Yeah, why jewelry?
I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about their business, it's so romantic. Mm-hmm. Mine is not.
Okay.
It was 2000, like the end of 2018, the beginning of 2019. My husband and I had 2 children at the time. We were living in a 500 square foot apartment, and we were riddled with debt. We had medical debt and student loans and credit card debt, and we just were trying to make ends meet. And we were both working all of the time, and I was picking up as many freelance jobs as I could, and Post was started with a true hope and a prayer that we could get out of debt. And so a lot of times people ask, well, like, why did you choose accessories? Like, do just earrings fuel you? Mm-hmm. And I like earrings. I've got many piercings in my ears, but I chose earrings because our apartment was so small. I had like 3 drawers that I could dedicate to a business. And I was like, okay, one of those drawers will be for packaging. One of those drawers will be for like files, and one of those drawers will be for inventory. I had to choose something with a really small footprint. And I also didn't have a ton of money to put into the business when I started. So I needed to choose some sort of product that had a low MOQ and like it just wasn't expensive up front.
Yeah.
So I think my first launch, I launched like 12 products, and I had less than 5 of each style.
So like 60 total.
60 total. Like, that was all I could afford. And that's how we started. That's how I started in August of 2019.
So genius. Really and truly it is. It's like, okay, here's the issue. Here's what I know I'm good at. Here's what I think I can do. here's the parameters that it has to fit into like this space. That's so amazing. And so then you sold 60 pairs of earrings.
I did. I made $1,200 in sales.
Oh my gosh, you're so that, but
it was wild. I don't think I had seen over $1,000 in one place for a very long time.
Yes, I remember the first time like I sold 30 pairs of moccasins in an hour, and I was like, am I the richest person I know?
Are we going to Vegas?
Exactly.
Am I a millionaire?
Exactly. No one I know has this kind of money.
No, it was.
And so what did
wild.
you do? Did you immediately put the money back to work?
Yes, I took that $1,200 and I bought myself a thermal printer for labels.
Yes.
Because I'm still doing all of my fulfillment in-house, but I remember the thought of spending $100 on a label printer was
Did it come with
detrimental.
the stickers?
No.
So you have to buy the stickers too.
It was such a wild business expense that I was like, I hope that this is not a waste of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought my label printer, and then I took that remaining $1,000 and I just put it right back into inventory and hoped that those people would come back, because with my first launch, it was a lot of like friends and family and neighbors. And so, I just hoped that there were more people out there that were interested in my product. And
so then what was your second launch? How many pieces? Do you remember?
That's a good question. Probably about the same, because when I initially started, I tried to buy like enough for like maybe 2 launches. So it's probably about 50 pieces. Again, my launches have always been smaller. I've always had a bit of an inventory cap problem, but I've just tried to slowly increase since then. But they were small, small but mighty.
Yeah. And you can just do it, get it done, rest, do it again, get it done, rest.
Yeah, little rest, but
yeah, and then take like a little more money, invest it into the business, a little more money. I mean, that's like a totally amazing way to grow your business, especially, and let's get into this, especially when you're full-time momming. Were you still doing design as well?
Initially, yes. Initially, I was still working full-time when I started Post, which was in August. And by January, I was able to quit doing any freelance and was able to dedicate all of my time to my business. But at the time, I had 2 children. I currently have 3 and almost 4 now. Yeah. So
do anytime.
Truly. How the turntables.
How the
turntables.
How the turntables.
In only a few years. But at the time, let's see, it was 2019. So I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And we were living in the tiniest apartment of all time. So yeah, my business was in the living room. My children had their own room, but it was also the laundry room. So there was an incredible amount of overlap, and there truly still is.
So at the time, how did you delineate work time, home time, baby time? Like, how did you manage that?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Hard. Yeah.
I think the concept of work-life balance is not a real thing.
It's not.
And I know you've talked about that. It's just sometimes you're prioritizing business and sometimes you're prioritizing motherhood, but something is usually like slightly out of balance. And I think being self-aware of those priorities helps a lot, because initially I was so excited. I was so excited that my product was selling and we were paying off debt and we were able to pay our bills, that I was so fueled by this financial relief that I just got real down and gritty and just worked a lot. And so my kids watched a lot of TV.
Yeah, my first nanny was Netflix.
Yeah.
100%.
My kids, and we didn't do crafts.
No.
My kids, during the summer, they would play in the backyard and eat out of the sandbox, and it's surprising we didn't have more medical run-ins. But I was working all of the time, and my kids were fed and clothed most of the time, but I wasn't as involved as a parent as I had hoped to be. But I also had an equal hope to have some financial relief. So I chose that first.
Plus, were you feeling fulfilled by what you were doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really admire women who want to be in the home full time, who find a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment in motherhood. I'm just not one of those women. I find a lot of satisfaction in working.
Yeah.
And not that, sometimes when I say that, it sounds really harsh. Like, oh, ugh, you've got all these kids. Like, do you love these children? And of course I do. I love my 3 daughters, and they're wonderful. And I hope someday that they will look back and be like, instead of resentment, look at me as their mother and be like, oh, cool. I can thrive in motherhood, but I can also be a person outside of motherhood. I can have hobbies. I can have a career. I can have friends. Because I think the previous generation, I was taught anyway, that it's a one track.
Yeah.
You're good for babies. Hope you're really good at making bread. And I'm not. So
Or 7-layer Jello, which Kim is actually good at.
delicious.
It's
also
so good. I feel it's interesting because you look at like the World War II, and women were doing all of it. And then there's like a disconnect. It kind of seems like there was like, I want to say, this is maybe I'm going to get in trouble, but I've talked with my friend Cameron True about this before. I believe that there was like propaganda around women need to be in the home, and motherhood should be like your biggest and highest and fulfilling thing. And if you've ever sat with a toddler for like more than an hour or two, it's hard to be fulfilled by that. And I think I want to contribute. I want to create. I want to build stuff. And I also want to raise my children to be wonderful human beings. And there's been kind of this story in the past where it's like you have to choose. You can either do one or the other, but you can't do both. And I think it's totally untrue, because men, that wasn't being told to them the same way. Like, you can be a good dad and you can be fulfilled outside the home. And I totally agree with you. I feel like so I have a question. When you guys moved into your house that you're currently in, and you then had like a separate workspace, so it wasn't in like the family room, do you feel like the delineation was easier?
Yes, it definitely gave me mental space to divide motherhood and my business. Even though Post is still in my home, it's in the basement. That's where the fulfillment happens. It is easier because I can close the door to my business and I can go upstairs and spend time with my family. But there is still a lot of overlap. Like, if I'm working downstairs and I hear the kids fighting over which Bluey episode to watch, like just a flight up, I am aware of it. So oftentimes I still go upstairs, and there's still an overlap between business and motherhood.
Yeah. And
right now it's okay. It works. It works for us.
You know, my kids are 16 and 14 now. And, you know, I try to leave it all. I have 2 offices. I try to leave it at the office, but like, there's still times I'm answering emails or working on something at home. And I feel like that's just how life is. It's not like you open your door and then you can compartmentalize everything from the outside world into the room that you're in. It's just not how it works. Like, you're carrying mental loads from like 3 different things all at the same time. And I was actually at BYU yesterday, and this girl, when girls ask it, I really am okay with it. When guys ask it, I want to punch them in the neck. But it's always like kind of this frantic, like, okay, well, how do you balance? Like, they're thinking, I want to work, I want to be a mother.
Yes.
How do I do both? And I'm always like, you don't, and you do. You just don't balance, and you do both. And I feel like my kids have been able to see me go after things, and I've seen that play out in their lives where they feel totally confident to do big things because of it. And then we also have like this beautiful relationship because the time that we have together is precious. And so I optimize it, and I really try to dig into like whatever they're doing.
Absolutely. I really hope that, I mean, I love seeing like your progress and like hearing about your kids, because I am about 10 years behind with my kids. Like my oldest is almost 8. Then I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. So right now I'm like, am I causing a lot of trauma?
No.
Am I causing a lot of issues?
No, you're not. Also, your girls are absolutely at my favorite ages. Like 9-year-old girls they're in between, like they're so innocent, but they want to be big and they're doing stuff. It's like the cutest. And then your baby, I'm just obsessed with her. She's so cute.
She's like a cartoon character.
You're not causing trauma. I think, like think back with your interactions with your parents, and most of the time you just wanted to know that they were there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes put too much emphasis on stuff. And if you do cause trauma, like just put a little bit aside for their therapy. They'll be
Absolutely.
fine. They're gonna be fine. Okay, so what about like growing up? Were you always entrepreneurial?
Like, did I have a lemonade stand?
No, just do you like to think of ways, like, I love that you're like, ooh, we have a lot of debt, so I'm going to take some of the money we don't actually have and I'm going to spend it to make more, like that.
Yeah.
Like just thinking through the way that you problem solve is really interesting to me.
Well, thank you. I have always been a little obscure, you know, just a little. For example, when I was in elementary school, I remember there was a tube slide on the playground. It was a very hot place to be. It was very fun. And I'm sort of bossy. And even when I was young, I really liked design. So I remember making passes with clip art and different like fonts for specific people. They got like a VIP entrance to the slide. I didn't have any authorization to do that. Like, I don't know who no one put me in charge, but I was like, I'm in charge of this now. If you don't have a pass, you can't come in. So if I look back, I really liked design even as a young kid. And I remember when I was 16, the only thing I wanted for my birthday was the Adobe suite. And it was like the time of hard software. It wasn't like a cloud situation.
Yes, so you get the disc, right?
Yeah. So I got an Illustrator and Lightroom and Photoshop for my 16th birthday. And honestly, I was thrilled.
So you like power through design. You're like, so there's this tube slide everyone wants. I want to be in charge of who goes down it.
I do like to be in charge.
You're going to create an experience, but let other people have fun. Yeah, this tracks, right?
I mean, it does.
It tracks.
It hasn't always served me well because I don't know if I used my powers for good.
Yeah.
But I hope that I am now.
Well, that's part of growing up, is like realizing that you could be an evil genius if you wanted to be, but instead we're just going to be a nice person.
Right. We try most of the days.
It's amazing. What is the hardest part about running your own business?
Probably the feeling of needing to grow. I think there's an overwhelming amount of pressure on a lot of entrepreneurs to grow and to scale and to be bigger and do more and push sales and expand into new categories, which I think is great. Like, everyone needs a pep talk. But I think because of where I currently am in my life, I'm in the thick of having small children, and I've grown my business to a place where it's comfortable for my needs. I have felt a lot of pressure behind what if I don't want to scale? what if I do actually want to dedicate more time to my family and take a step back from my business? And this has been something I've grappled with over the past year, because I had my daughter in August of last year, and then we unexpectedly got pregnant shortly thereafter. And so I'm due with another baby, and they will be less than 2 years apart.
So you had her in 2021?
2021.
Yeah.
And then I'm due in 5 minutes from now.
It's so interesting because like you and I had talked earlier, you hit a lot of big milestones for your business this year.
I did.
And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And I've seen this a lot with some of the women that I mentor, where there is pressure that you kind of put on yourself from watching other people. And you're like, okay, well, I hit that milestone, so now I guess I have to have my eye on the next milestone. And some of it's revenue, some of it's customers or whatever. And I think taking your business at your speed so it fits in your life is like actually like a really cool way to approach it. Like, yeah, I'm going to do 4 drops a year, or I'm going to do this thing, and that's as big as I want it. And I'm okay with it not becoming a business that employs hundreds of people and makes all this money. I'm okay with where it's at.
Right. And I think I didn't realize I was looking for permission to slow down until you and I went to lunch. And I realized I am allowed to do that. I'm the boss. Like, I'm allowed to slow down if I want to. And I think I was really fearful of lost potential opportunity, like loss of revenue, loss of customers. What if they're all going to leave? My product isn't proprietary.
Right.
Like, respectfully, you can go to Target and get a pair of earrings.
Right.
And so that fear was debilitating, because I have worked really hard to get to this point, that the fear of burning down my business was very real. And then you told me, like, business is more resilient than I think we realize, and it's okay to take it slow. And
yeah, it's hard. It's so hard to kill your business, honestly. Like, I've tried a couple times. I've really messed up, and I feel like it's also just so important that it fits into your life. And right now you're like not even a 2-year-old baby girl, and she's busy.
yes.
And then you're going to have a newborn, which I'm assuming this baby is going to be your last.
Yes. In a big way.
And then, like, I'm actually looking at that with Hattie right now, where she's going to be a senior. And instead of first stuff, we're looking at last stuff. Like, this is going to be her last first day of school.
Oh, her last Christmas in the home.
Well, I mean, yeah, she'll come home. I mean, I'm going to be so far up my kids' butts, they won't even know how to breathe. But, but still, there's something different, and we've all experienced it. You still go home, but you're not living at home. And she'll come home for sometimes, or she might even move back in, but it's not going to be the same. You know, the dynamic's going to be different. And so, like, right now, I've slowed down a lot of work, a lot of the stuff that I do, and I'm saying no to more stuff because I'm like, this is it. Like, this summer is it. And then she's an adult next summer. And if I plan a family vacation, she can decide not to go on it.
Oh.
I know. And so I think, like, if you're a woman and you're doing a business, like, just if you feel an urge to, like, pull back, just do it.
Yes. Just do it.
Just do it. And your baby, like, those first 6 months, those, like, lay around and nurse for hours on end and smell like milk, like, this is it. This is your last chance.
It really is.
And it's disgusting, but at the same time, like, okay, let's go for it.
You're so sticky and yes. It's so sweet all at the same time.
And then you'll smell your armpit or something. You're like, how did it get there? But it is, like, my favorite. So what does your year ahead look like?
Susan, do you want to tell me?
Oh, yeah. Well, we can do it later, but are you just planning on Q4? What are you thinking? Take the summer off?
Don't know.
Yeah, you
Am
don't
I
have
allowed
to know.
Say that?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I think it's refreshing.
I don't know. I would like to know, but honestly, I am feeling really like sentimental about this last pregnancy. First of all, this pregnancy has been hell. It's been horrible.
Yeah.
In comparison to my other pregnancies.
Yeah,
So
you have, what is that called that you said you have?
SPD.
SPD.
It's just like a gaping hole in your pelvis. It's
so it
charming.
just aches all the time.
Yes.
Oh.
And it's really slowed me down.
And do your hips hurt?
Always.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I take a lot of baths and I read a lot of books right now. And that's that's what it is. But knowing that this is my last child, I love newborns.
Same.
And I don't want to work away that time. So I am giving myself some grace.
Yeah.
I'm planning on dropping product throughout the year, but I'm not going to hold myself to any like really hard campaign like schedules like I did last year. Quarter 4 was so wild for me and my business. It was wonderful. It was such a learning experience, but honestly, I'm still so tired.
Yeah.
And so I'm giving myself grace this year. That's my plan.
I actually love that you're saying that, because I think someone who's listening is probably feeling like, oh, thank you. Like when you give yourself permission for that, you always give other people permission inadvertently. And so I love it. I don't know what my year looks like either.
Or we're just all kind of tired.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're coming out of January, so we're all sad.
I'm just excited. Like it's just a fun time, and I like not having things nailed down. It's like fun, exciting.
It is.
Yeah. And in the same way you want to just nest with a baby, I just want to nest with my almost 17-year-old.
Full circle between
yes,
you
we
and me.
are. We're on other sides of the spectrum. It's kind of fun. What is one lesson that you learned early on in your business that is still true today?
I mean, we talked about this a little earlier, but just the details count.
Yeah.
The details count. So being thoughtful about and intentional about your brand matters. I am a planner to a fault. At some point, you just need to pull the trigger. You just need to move forward with a plan. But I've tried to be really intentional and thoughtful in the things that I do with my business. And it took me almost a full year to launch Post, because I wanted to make sure that the foundation of my brand was fairly sturdy. I mean, this is my first brand. So I was like, well, let's hope for the best. But the details count.
Yeah. Do you feel like, was it hard to get out of the details and actually pull the trigger?
Initially, yes.
Because it felt like you were doing something, right?
Yes. Initially, it was hard because I was like, okay, we could keep tweaking it. I could keep messing with it. But once the ball got rolling and things, like, I love my customer base. I love my customer base more than I love my product. I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't know if that's controversial.
No, I think community is more important than the product you supply.
Yeah, I like my product. I wear my product every day, but I love the group of women that support Post. And so after I got to know them and they were there, it's much easier to like move forward with the details because we're friends. They're millennials. They're listening to Pussycat Dolls in their minivans. There are goldfish on the floor. There are like 14 kids in their car. Like we know each other. It's funny because if I ever run into someone and they're like, "Oh, are you Meg?" It's at Target almost 100% of the time. So
because your customer shops at Target.
Yes. My customer is a 30-year-old mom usually. And so I feel like once I got to know who was buying from Post, it was much easier to move forward with the details.
Yeah. Yeah, because then it's easier to speak to like the small things and in the humanity of what everyone's experiencing.
Totally. In the same way that like if you go shopping and you see something that your friend would like, you'd just be like, oh yeah, Susan would love this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pick it up. It's the same through my brand. Like if I see something funny or something from a really old Parks and Rec episode, I'm like, oh, they'll love this.
Right.
Because we're friends.
Because you know them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is some advice that you would give young Meg starting out?
Don't ignore your husband. Oh, am I allowed to say that?
Yes, you can say whatever.
I mean, I am so grateful I'm in like a healthy, happy relationship.
Yeah.
But my first year of business took off in a way that one is, I think, kind of unusual, and I was really lucky. And I was so fueled by the momentum that I saw that I kind of put blinders on and I just worked and I ignored my kids, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
But also my marriage. Like I worked so much, and luckily McKay was like, okay, we're going to work through this because it's not going to be like this forever. And I'm really grateful that he stuck it out, because honestly, I was very absent. So I think maybe don't ignore your husband should also equate to like, be aware of like some time management skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can still go on a date with your partner. Your business will still be there afterwards.
It's wild how it's almost like I can remember feeling like I started a fire with a paper straw and toenail clippers, and I was like blowing on it. And if I wasn't there blowing on it the whole time, like somehow I MacGyvered a fire out of nowhere. And now I'm like, I have to be here, otherwise the fire is not going to burn.
Truly.
And what I realized was, I can take a step back and the fire can actually get to embers, and then I can blow some life back into it and it's fine. Or sometimes when you leave it alone, it just kind of takes off by itself, and then you can come back to it with fresh eyes and see it differently. Also, do you feel like when you first started the division of like home life, it has to be talked about, especially if you're working from home?
Yes.
And how did you guys navigate that?
Luckily, McKay and I have always worked. So even before post, I was still working, and a lot of that time it was remote. So we had some time to troubleshoot splitting home life and what our home needed. But it really kicked up when I started my own business, and it wasn't always balanced. And honestly, that is still something that we have to be very open about and communicate all the time about, because especially with product, like it just varies throughout the year. So right now I have more time to dedicate in the home, and McKay is really busy with his career. But during Q4, I was not doing the dishes. I was not participating in the household because it was the holidays are so busy.
Yeah.
And so I think having an open line of communication about like the logistics of a household is really helpful. And McKay and I have talked a lot, because I work in the home. This is probably, I don't know, maybe this is a thing if you have an office, but my office is my household. So if in the morning I wake up and the house is a mess, that affects my work life. I can't just leave and go to an office. So it helps when like the house is clean and we can move forward. But McKay and I have talked a lot about how, because of the overlap of home and office, I may ask for like really specific needs. Like, can you please take this garbage out, and can you please make sure that this load of laundry is moved? And I think initially in our relationship, it was like, you're kind of nagging me. Like, I'm a full-grown adult that can participate in this household. I can clean up, and I think once he realized like, oh no, she also like works here. There's like a system in place that she has put here to make sure that the household runs while her business also runs. And so now if I ask for like very specific household needs, he's just like, yeah, of course. In the same way that if I were to come into his office, he could just be like, hey, I might need help with this and this. And I don't have to ask follow-up questions really because it's not my space.
Yeah. It's, Chris and I have talked about this so much because I feel like for me, even when I'm not home, I carry the mental load of a lot of stuff. Like I'm like always thinking through, well, not the kitchen because that's like his domain, but like laundry and like stuff at the front door and stuff in just like all this stuff that I'm like constantly running a system. Yeah, there's like tabs open all the time. Yes. And I think it's hard if your man doesn't see that or if your partner is not aware that like, yeah, I really want to be the person that can relax in a messy house, but I absolutely cannot be that person. And so, you know, we've really gotten to the point where if something's important to him or if something's important to me, then it's my responsibility to come up with a system and then communicate that so that it can be like, so it can be put in place and people can follow through. But you can't, there's so much resentment pops up in that area that you always have to watch it. You have to weed it out all the time and make sure you're just on top of it.
Absolutely. Because the things that are important to me aren't necessarily important to McKay.
Yeah.
And so if we don't talk about it, then it's like, why do you care if, you know, the high chair is wiped down?
I used to get so mad at the fruit snack wrappers by his side of the bed. And I'm like, literally a fruit snack wrapper from the time you open it until you get to the garbage can, the fruit snacks are gone. Why are we bringing the wrappers in the bedroom? And then I was like, he doesn't care about this. So I would just pick him up because I know he would, if it was really important to me, he would do it.
Right.
But it's also like, if I'm going to get an ask, it's not going to be that.
Yeah.
You know?
How long have you been married?
This will be our 19th year. I know.
You are so wise.
We've been through it. Yeah. I think when you go through it, you just learn. Yeah.
You learn a lot really quickly, usually.
Yes. Okay. What legacy are you trying to build? Do you hate that question?
No. What if I tell you that I don't think my legacy will lie within post?
I don't think mine is at freshly picked.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are always like, what, like, how do you know you made it? And I'm like, girl, I haven't made it.
No, look at, there's so much more time.
I'm busy. Yeah.
I adore Post, and it has taught me more lessons than I could have ever asked for. Like, I am just really grateful for all of the business experience that I've learned over the last couple of years, but I've made some errors that I don't think I can get around with this brand, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I also don't have like a passion for my product. So I have a little something else in the works that I'm really excited about.
That's amazing.
And I think hopefully the goal is within this next brand. The legacy is within this next brand. It's something that I'm really excited about and passionate about, and something that's important. I know that like in this day and age, like everyone wants a cause. And Post doesn't have like a real cause. Like the cause is we're just a bunch of moms who can come together and like have solidarity and camaraderie, and that's great. And we can wear earrings because our pants don't fit, but our earrings do. Mm-hmm. And it's good. The messaging is good, but I don't think my legacy is with this brand.
I actually love that. Okay, we're going to go into some rapid fire. What's your favorite childhood memory?
Do you want me to unearth trauma?
If you want to.
I guess it's not rapid.
If you want to. Yeah, well, it's just, here's some fire questions. Go ahead.
Here's some fire questions. One one of my favorites is I was probably 9 and my mom turned on Usher's Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was just jamming. And I remember being so embarrassed by that.
Yeah.
Like she loved that song. And now that I'm a mom and I'm still listening to like the early 2000s hip hop and my 7-year-old is like, ugh, what? Are we okay? It feels really full circle.
Yeah.
So I think that will always be a favorite memory is my mom just absolutely busting a move to Usher while I was absolutely embarrassed.
It is so wild to have your kids start to be embarrassed of you because it doesn't feel that long ago that you were embarrassed of your mom. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's so many moments when I'm like, oh, I get my mom now more than ever. Yeah. But that's definitely one. Like the first time my kid was like I was walking out of church with Gus on Sunday and I went to grab his hand and he looked around and I was like, did you just look around to see if anyone was watching us? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's just wild.
It's a weird milestone.
It's fun. Who's your best friend?
Probably McKay.
Oh, that's really sweet.
You know, I didn't burn down our marriage.
Yeah.
And then
it's more resilient than you think.
It is. And we went to Mexico in January for our 11th anniversary.
Oh, fun. 11's big.
Yeah. And we came home and I was like, oh, I really like hanging out with you. And he was like, did it take you a decade to realize that? Yeah. And I was like, well, I mean, maybe. I also probably have forgotten the last couple of years, but I really enjoy spending time with my husband. He's a cool guy.
He is cool.
He's hot also. So.
The post girls kind of go crazy for McKay content.
He has really aged like fine wine.
He really has.
He's a hottie.
Yeah.
I have no apologies there.
I agree. Yeah. And you do have a little bit of a book talk vibe going on in your post community anyway. So I could see them.
Yes.
Yeah. They're into McKay.
Yes, they are.
Something that you're looking forward to right now.
I am looking forward to sunshine.
Oh, same.
I'm looking forward to sunshine. That will help with the seasonal depression, I think.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this baby being born.
Mm-hmm. Your pelvis going back.
Yeah. Hopefully my pelvis mending.
Yes, it
we'll
will.
See.
It'll go right back to normal.
TBD.
Yeah.
Honestly.
You might have to do some physical therapy, but you'll be fine.
Yeah. Bless women.
I know, but
children.
I was actually out with a bunch of girlfriends and Christian on Tuesday, and we were talking about how much fun it is to have a baby. Yes. And every time I see a pregnant girl who's about ready to have a baby, I'm like, I'm so jealous. I love going to the hospital. I love it's just so much fun.
If I could go through labor and delivery like every month, every other month, maybe not the recovery, but labor and delivery, absolutely.
And get a fresh new babe every time. Yes, I would do it.
I love it.
Not if I didn't have to raise them. Just okay. Okay.
But labor and delivery is...
It's so fun.
It's the most fun I've ever had.
Seriously.
The most fun.
The most fun days of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your books you're into right now?
I started Throne of Glass.
Same.
I just started today.
Okay.
So.
I just finished the first book.
Is it Rocky?
It was her first. Sarah J. Maas. We're fans of Sarah J. Maas.
Yes.
It was her first series, right?
I think she was like a teenager when she wrote this first book.
Yeah. It gets better towards the end, and I think the next one is better.
Good.
And then I've heard the third one is kind of a prequel.
Oh yeah.
Because there is a lot where you're like, wait, this is all coming out of nowhere. Okay. So just get through the first one. I was happy with the ending.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it started to feel like her at the end.
I've been missing my fairies. So.
I know. And there's a little bit of that in this. So far, I don't know. My niece has read all 7 and she's obsessed.
I've heard they're wonderful. I hear that it just takes a little more leg work. But we read Crescent City, which admittedly takes a lot of leg work.
I feel like, have we already talked about this? I feel like Crescent City is like the last Harry Potter where you're like, no one's editing for this woman anymore.
Yeah, no, those editors, they're
they're like, oh yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
After the last, like, what's the last?
Silver Flames?
Yeah, after Silver Flame, they're like, you can do no wrong, which we all feel like that.
She could sell anything.
Silver Flame is hot.
Very good.
It is a Silver Flame.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing that. I haven't read, and then I've been on my Regency kick, but
I know. I should get into that entire genre because I just haven't.
Just got sick of just bad writing. We both like romance novels, and there is some really bad stuff.
I did just finish A Long Time Coming by Megan Quinn.
I can't do Megan Quinn anymore.
That is because you've evolved. So
also, I don't like Colleen Hoover, but you got into her.
No.
No.
Whoa. Watch yourself.
I'm so sorry.
I have a theory about Colleen Hoover
Ooh,
books.
let me hear.
Colleen Hoover books are the equivalent of McDonald's French fries. They are satisfying. They are easy to get your hands on. They're highly consumable and probably bad for you. Like
and shareable.
Oh my word.
They're also a gateway drug.
This is snobby. So I would like to say this first of all. I did not read as a grown person until last January.
Yes.
I'm 30 and I was like, oh, I think people read for fun. Yeah. I'm going to try that. So I'm not a reader.
Yeah, you got into your reading girl era.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm a reader now.
Yeah.
I made an Instagram.
You're a girly.
Yeah. I was like, I'm a book reviewer now.
Yes, exactly.
And I think Colleen Hoover books can make bad readers because she loves trauma. Mm-hmm. The trauma starts on page 1.
Yeah.
It's through the entire book. Like, how could you possibly not finish these books when, like, every single person is on fire?
Yeah.
And they're in love. Like, you have to finish.
They're toxic and traumatic.
Yes. And all of her books are that way. So they're impossible not to read in one sitting. I think I've read 7. I think I've read quite a few. They're no good for your brain.
I love the McDonald's French fry because it's like a slippery slope, right? You're like, I'm going to go through McDonald's to get fries. I'll be fine. And then before you know it, you have a McFlurry, a spicy McChicken, and a full sugar Sprite because they're way better at McDonald's.
Absolutely.
And you don't know how you got there.
No, you don't. But you know how you did? You read It Ends With Us.
At Coho.
Yeah.
Oh, Coho.
That's how it happened.
And the casting on It Ends With Us is so terrible.
Susan?
Blake Lively is not young.
Well, is this how I know I'm getting old? Because I'm like, she looks great. She could pass as 24.
She does look great. Kim and I were talking about this on the Cherry Pick episode because Jennifer Lopez is in a new show where Jennifer Coolidge is her mom. And I think there's only a 10-year difference between those two.
Oh, my gosh.
And I am let's give the young girls something to do.
They're on The Bachelor.
Yeah, but there's new young actresses. Are they not interested in Coho?
I don't know.
Maybe Coho wanted Blake Lively. I love Blake Lively. She's good.
She is good.
But she's not 19.
Is she supposed to be 19?
Isn't that the beginning of the book? Didn't she just get out of college?
Yeah, but I assumed that they would get someone else.
Sometimes
for the morning for when she's a teenager.
They might have a young Blake Lively, or they'll just do makeup. But sometimes when I read a book and I find out the character's 25, because I still think I'm 25, and then I look in the mirror and I'm like, no, you're 40, 44. So sometimes I think maybe they know their audience. They're going to be 30-year-old women.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't, respectfully, I don't want to see a 19-year-old boy and girl playing these two leads. Like,
you want them to be older.
I do want them to be older, even though I know in my brain, in the book, they're not.
Yeah.
It feels less predatory if they're not teenagers.
Yeah, and it's heavy stuff.
Yes.
Okay. What does your typical day look like?
Well, I read an entire book today. So
when you're busy working and mothering at the same time, how about that?
That's fair. I brought on an assistant, which was the greatest thing I've ever done. I don't know why women get sort of coy about hiring help. Because how in the world are we supposed to do all of the things that society expects us to do?
Yeah.
So,
or even just like manage kids and house and work. Yeah, it's a lot.
So during the busy season, I have house cleaners that come a couple times a month, and I have an assistant who splits her time between helping with the kids and helping at work. So oftentimes we'll wake up. I'm not a morning person. So we'll wake up at a reasonable time, which is like 8:30 or 9. You will not catch me at the gym at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Never.
It's not your vibe.
It's not my vibe. I respect it. I would love to be that girl. I'm not.
I actually, for women in cortisol levels, I don't think it's actually healthy, but that's a hot take.
I like that take. If I can just sleep in, that's preferable.
Yeah.
But usually once I get my kids off to school is when I start working, and every day kind of looks different. If I'm in the throes of doing weekly launches, I do all of my own photography still right now, which I will be hiring out soon. But
you think that's the one you'll hire out before shipping?
Oh, no, shipping first.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I do all my own imagery, and so like usually one day a week is dedicated to just shooting, and it's just honestly like a typical day is so different. Like even though I do love a schedule, my schedule is usually set by my children. It's like, okay, this is when the girls go to school. This is when I drive carpool. This is when dance is. And then like all of the time in between is when I fill in with work. So some days it's shooting. Sometimes it's designing campaigns. Sometimes it's emails and fulfillment. But a lot of my typical day is structured around what's going on with kids.
Yeah. I love it. Meg, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Really smart and fun.
You're so cool.
What is that? It's a laugh track.
Is this a laugh track?
Let me say it again. It was like a laugh track.
Sounded like it was from Seinfeld.
Yeah. I'll say it again so that it was like the Friends one.
Yes.
Meg, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. You're the best.
Thanks for having me.